A hearty welcome to one and all. This is episode 39 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I want to welcome those of you who are joining me on the YouTube channel. If you haven't done so, please, if you enjoy the content, click like, smash that subscriber bell. Or if you're coming to me from one of the audio platforms like Spotify or iTunes and you enjoy the content, don't forget to click like and subscribe. So I'm going to talk again about something that I haven't really gotten very much into, and that is aging. Because I am mere hours from a milestone birthday. And I remember as a much younger person, specifically when I was a child, being frightened of, I was frightened of pretty much everything, but aging in particular. And an understanding that as you reach various ages, different things might take place that don't previously. And in so many different walks of life, as we age, there are points of no return. They're not always bad, but there are points of no return. And something that I've learned as I've gotten older is that we don't have unlimited time here, but it's okay that we don't have unlimited time. We're supposed to act with a sense of urgency. We are not supposed to go through life as if we are here forever. We're supposed to go through life, in my opinion, and try to make as many meaningful connections, friendships, love relationships, if we're fortunate, as we can. And to not waste too much time on gotcha stuff, vengeance. It doesn't work. You know, there's that line from the Stallone film, Get Carter, where Michael Caine knows that Sly is basically going to try to bump off a bunch of people for revenge. Michael Caine says, revenge doesn't work. And Sly says, sure it does. But it's a fair question. Does it really? Because at the end of the movie, is he really in any better shape than he was when it started? Probably not. But in general, I've gotten a lot more out of my life in the last 20 years than I did, let's say in the last 15 would be more accurate. 15 to 20, we'll put it that way. I've gotten more out of life in the last 15 or so years than in the previous 15. And the way I phrase it like that is, I'm talking about different time frames when I was a full-grown adult. Because I turned 21 a long time ago. And I would say that if you rewind the clock 13 or 14 years from right now, or even 15 years, you can rewind the clock another 15 and I'm still a full-grown adult. And if I say, was my life better from 20 to 35? Or is my life better from 35 to 50? It's not even close. I got very little out of life from 20 to 35. It was mostly me by myself, feeling sorry for myself, being angry all the time, trying to achieve. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't sitting around. I wasn't, the cliche today of a guy sitting in his mother's basement, blowing people up on the internet. No. That wasn't me. I was striving to achieve, but I was alone. And I was miserable, and I was angry, almost entirely. And I thought that that's what life would always be. Because, and this isn't really a criticism, when you're a young person and you go through struggle, and let's face it, struggling at 8 years old versus struggling at 15 versus struggling in college and or grad school or the workaday world, or struggling as a husband, as a father, as a mom, as a son, as a daughter. It's different depending on what age you are, where you are in life, and what is your station in life. All of these things. It's a whole combination. It's a plethora of different things at any given time. I had it better than I realized. That is incumbent upon me. That is a failing of my life during that time frame, that I did not see how many advantages I had over the average person. All I saw was, I'm alone, this sucks, I suck, everything sucks, life sucks. It didn't. I just thought it did. At a certain point in time, I started to attend therapy. I saw a psychotherapist. I'd actually been in therapy a bunch of times, but it wasn't until my last go-round, when I was already in my middle 20s, that I started to make any kind of progress. And even then, it took about 5 years before I got anywhere. So what I know and what I can tell you as somebody approaching the big 5-0, there's certain things in your body that won't work as well as they used to. There are certain things that will work better. And it's okay. It's all okay. So, for example, you could be built like a stallion, right? You could be John Holmes. You could be like a porn star, at least in theory. You could be a porn star in a bedroom. If you don't have anyone in your life, it does not matter. It makes no difference. If you don't have the basic ability to form interpersonal connections, all of that stuff is completely irrelevant. Now, I knew that, but I only focused on that. I didn't focus on bro, you have the ability to make interpersonal connections. No, I don't. Yes, you do. The kinds of fighting that was going on, between the ears. At a certain point in time, with therapy, with repetition, I started to engage people better. I became better friends to people who had gone out of their way to try to be my friend, only to find that I was giving them the cold shoulder. I wasn't doing it intentionally. It was how I was built at that time, that I kept everybody at a distance. I didn't make eye contact particularly well. I mean, that part of that is the social anxiety disorder. But to be specific, and this is something that I know that a lot of fitness people in particular worry about, and this keeps them up. And this is something that you have to deal with as you get older. So back in my kind of crazy days at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym, starting in 1993, I joined in March of 1993. Bev herself took my money. Big Steve had hair back then, like regular, bushy kind of curly hair. He was still jacked. But Bev had only recently retired. Her last competition, very controversial to this day, you can Google, the 1991 Ms. Olympia, she should have won the show. And I love Linda Murray. Linda Murray, all time, you could argue the GOAT, no problem. Bev should have won that show. And she retired and, started a family after that. But I met her the first part of 1993. She had only been out of the sport of bodybuilding about 15 or 16 months. So all of that was still very fresh when I first walked through those doors at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym. But as I spent time there and in the first, number of years, learning how to train effectively, doing so many crazy things, deadlifts for super high reps. Now, deadlifts for super high reps are actually good, are not injurious to the body. If you're talking about taking a regular bar and one plate, so 135 pounds, and saying, fuck it, I'm going to do 100 reps, that's fine. You're not going to injure yourself doing that. It may not be the best thing for, muscle growth and or strength, but as far as strengthening the lower back, the systems of the body, learning how to motivate and push yourself when you're exhausted, grinding out willpower reps, fantastic. But what I was doing was taking weight which was by any metric heavy. Even for somebody that can lift 600 pounds, they're not going to say that 350 is light. Even if it's light for them, that ain't lightweight. No matter how you want to look at it, lightweight baby, it's not. But I was doing really sick shit, like 300 pounds for 30 reps. I actually did 400 for 20. That was my single most preposterous achievement. And unfortunately, it was in about 2003 or 4. There was no camera and there were no phones. I didn't have a Canon with me that day to record it. That's a set that I wish that I had gotten, committed to celluloid, as they say. But I bench pressed as much as 350. I had stretches where I was bulked up as high as 240 or 245. Didn't really look that good. Felt even worse. And then I stopped doing that, but still was able to pull crazy amounts of weight well into my, late 30s and even into my early 40s. I was still jacking up, 4 plates, no problem. And when I say no problem, I don't mean that it was easy. I mean, if you could do 4 plates and you could get 8 to 10 reps, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Even if it's not like the days where you were able to pull 20, at a body weight of 230 pounds, for example. But what I understand now, and this is something that I struggled with, and it's okay to struggle with this, because eventually you will make peace with it. I will never bench press as much as 300 pounds again. I've accepted that. I have aches and pains in the elbow, in the shoulders. It's not practical. Yes, if I decided, I'm going to get rid of my abs, I'm going to put on weight, let's see how much I can bench. The muscles and the supportive structures are theoretically strong enough to bench press 300 pounds again, or 350. But the risk of injury, which existed when I was in my 20s, is far greater now. It's not even close. So it is better. Like even today, on my social media, I posted a set where I had 40-pound dumbbells for shoulder presses, and I did 31 reps. Now that's not a great set. You have a strong man who could easily do a dozen reps with 100-pound dumbbells, for example, on that exercise, or more than 100. He might start gasping a little bit after, let's say, 20 reps with 40s, but he'll be able to do 30. And if he has his mind right, he'll be able to do 50. But that's the kind of set I know if I'm warmed up properly, I get a killer delt workout, tricep, and I am not injuring anything. The aches and pains I don't feel during the set, and I feel safe, and I'm not going to get injured. And it's critically important as you get older. Injury prevention, number one, because who doesn't hate having to miss even one workout because we're injured? It's bad enough when we're sick. I mean, you got the flu normally, or COVID, you're so sick sometimes that you can't even think about working out. I know that. But I'm talking about missing a workout because you got hurt, and then you're angry at yourself. I'm so stupid. That's also normal. But at a certain point in time, when I was in my late 30s, I began to get injured doing all of the same things that I had always done and not gotten injured. It was my body's way of telling me it's time to make a little bit of a change here, to transform your thought process. Stop thinking in terms of deadlifting 535. Start thinking in terms of, is it still safe to do 4 plates? Should we back off to 3 plates? Because there's nothing wrong with the idea of getting a shit ton of reps with 315 or 350 or even 400 if you're still in your prime. And you strap in, you don't have to worry about your grip. Can you get 10 reps with 400? Can you get 15? Can you challenge that magical 20 mark? I don't know. But being able to not obsess and not get angry because my body was beginning to give way is something that took time. And it's not something you need to be afraid of. Just understand it's possible, because I also have friends and I know people on both sides. And I don't mean, it's not both sides of an argument. This isn't politics. It's not what I'm trying to say. But I know people who are still physically sound and have not really had to alter their training at all, well into their 40s or early 50s. I believe those are outliers. God bless them. That's great. I would still be cautious. But then I know people who have gotten injured, and in some cases, bad injuries. I mean, there's levels, right? With anything in life, there's levels. There are injuries, and I've had them, where I can't do regular bench presses this week because I injured my shoulder. There's that, and how a couple of days later, hey, son of a bitch, I'm feeling fine. And then there's the kind of injury where you need surgery. My standing goal, once I started having all those absurd injuries in my late 30s, strained hip flexor, strained lower lumbar, strained rotator on the right shoulder, strained elbow tendon, strained Achilles, once all that happened, I knew it was time. I'm not going to fight anymore. I need to do something different. So Some people get hurt and they get angry. Now, I was mad. But I was not going to continue to butt my head against a brick wall, because there are times in life, and it's not even just age, where your body is telling you, you can't do this anymore. I've never been able to do upright rows. What the fuck? It's a great exercise. Yeah, it's a great exercise if it doesn't hurt the shoulder girdle on both sides. And I took a 10-pound barbell, an early trip to Bev's gym. I was 19. And I went like this, and I felt a pull in the right shoulder girdle and the left shoulder girdle. What does that mean? It means that exercise is not for me. Well, at this stage of my life, you know what exercise is not for me? Flat bench barbell press, behind the neck shoulder press, pull downs behind the neck, pull downs to the front. They are not viable anymore. I humbly accept that. And I will gratefully and gracefully never do those exercises again. Why? Because it lowers the risk of serious injury. And that's what we try to do. I work out with weights 5 days a week. I don't like missing any time. If I don't do cardio the other 2 days, I'm like a basket case. And I know I'm not alone. We don't get our workout grind in. We feel like shit all day. And hey, sometimes life circumstances F things up. And again, I can point out another advantage if you have some kind of workout equipment at home, whether it's a piece or two pieces for cardio or weights. Usually you can wake up early enough, even under very dire or absurd, I can't believe this, I have to leave at 5 a.m., whatever it is. You can still get something done, get a little sweat going before you shower and get ready, where you feel at least like you did something. As far as the rigors of aging in particular, and here's the thing. When I was in my middle teens to my late teens, I was overweight. At a height of about 5'10", when I was going to grow almost another 4 inches, I was over 200 pounds. And my lower body always hurt. It ached like hell because I was carrying too much weight. As a senior in high school, when I famously lost a ton of weight while growing to a full height of 6'1 3/4, those aches and pains went away. And I mean, like, after playing sports, I would sit down, and when I would get up, I would hear snap, crackle, pop. Even when I was in my middle teens, I would hear that snap, crackle, pop, that ache. The ache was gone until I was about 21. And then it came back, even though I was still fit and healthy. By the time I was a junior in college, in order to get up out of a chair, I didn't just stand up. What did I do? I used my arms to pull myself or push myself up. If there was something to grab on, I would pull. And if it was a chair like this, do it like a dip. So that's something that I just always did, because it was a way to avoid pain and discomfort. Woe is me, right? But thing is, you're going to have certain injuries that are never going to heal. And this is something that is unfortunate, but it's a reality. Now, I never had any foot problems or anything like that. And then in very short order, right around the same time that I had all those other idiotic injuries, I almost broke my right ankle. I landed wrong. I was attempting to do like a kangaroo jump during a kind of a high intensity cardio type of a workout where I was being directed, climb ropes, and one of those kind of almost like a cross training type deal. I nearly broke my ankle, but I didn't. But I was walking with a limp for close to a month. That injury healed 100%. I do not feel anything in the right foot. Nothing. It's as if nothing happened. On the other hand, in early summer of 2012, with me, just a wee lad of 38, went over to Syosset High School, where I had never been, with a friend. We played tennis for about 2.5 hours, and I had a great time running back and forth. So I love tennis. I grew up playing tennis. One of my career goals in, make-believe alternate fantasy land, I was going to be a professional tennis player, left-handed wizard like John McEnroe. You cannot be serious. Did not realize I was injured. I felt fine. Played tennis, went home, nothing. I woke up the next morning. My left Achilles was on fire. On fire. That's 11 and a half years ago. I still feel it. I had never had pain in that area of my body until that day playing tennis, and I have had pain in that area of my body every day since. Them's the breaks. That's baseball, Susan. Not complaining, it's just a reality. So these are the things that are going to happen, invariably. And a great, I emphasize this, a great TV program that I highly recommend. And I mentioned this on the podcast when I had Jen as a guest, about a month or so ago. The Disney Channel had a docu-series with Chris Hemsworth, aka Thor. Terrific, good actor, absurdly attractive man, built like a brick shithead. He's the kind of guy that I would have hated when I was growing up because this fucking guy, look what he looks like. Like, how could you not want to take a crack at him? Well, you don't want to take a crack at him, stuff you into a garbage can. The point is, he is not in any way like a normal person. He is just not. But this TV show, it was on the Disney Channel, and it was the idea, I don't know if it was Hemsworth, but Darren Aronofsky, terrific filmmaker, was the showrunner. And the idea of this show was to, and Hemsworth was in his early 40s at the time, put him through a series of trials of difficult things. For example, he was scared to death of heights, and one of the episodes has him trying to overcome his fear of heights. Another episode, he fasted, and he basically suffered through 4 days of nothing but water. The idea was not to take this Man Mountain Dean and humanize him in that way. The whole purpose of this was life extension, is life extension. Certain things that you can do every day of your regular life, nothing special. He already works out a couple of hours a day. It's not surprising. He has an incredible studio at home. He already is a swimmer. The idea was life extension. Live longer, stronger. And seeing him get repeatedly humbled by some of the things they had him try to do and achieve, it did inadvertently humanize him. Because let me tell you something, when it's the middle of the second day and all he does is want a morsel of food and he's not allowed, and he's not going to obviously screw it up, and his brothers are there fucking with him and just absolutely glomming down pizza, and Liam Hemsworth is cracking up and the older brother is dying laughing, and they had a couple of friends. It's hilarious, but to see a guy like that laid low, I don't know. It was good. Not that he needed to be humbled, but he was humbled. What he talks about, though, and it's like you see him do things or try to do things, try to swim, 2 miles in 10-degree water, just crazy stuff. He'll come on and do a little bit, and then you watch him try to achieve. But he talks about the realities of aging and how I know that no matter what I do, no matter how good my genetics are, because they showed his father was a very attractive man into his very, later years. No matter what, at a certain point in time, I'm going to go in reverse and I'm going to have to deal with it. That's just the realities of life. But the idea is we want to keep it. We want to be our best self. Physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, for as long as possible. And what can we do to achieve that? And the other thing in the show, which was unexpected, is when they were doing the episode on how to keep your mind sharp as you age. And again, he's 40, 41, 42 when this was shot. I'm not sure the exact age. It turned out that he has a marker for Alzheimer's. And they weren't expecting it, and it sort of adds to the weight and the gravity of that particular episode. But then in the final episode, when he has to spend a few days living or pretending to be a man in his 80s, they fit him with all kinds of prosthetics. They fuck up his vision. They fuck up his hearing. I know it seems stupid, but it works in the context of the show. But you see him struggling with this part of it. Number one, he's scared shitless. he's 10 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease than the average person. That's fucking scary. I don't care who you are, how much money you have, what you look like. That is scary. And then struggling to do simple tasks. Like they make him wear these gloves where it's very difficult for him to even eat or go to the bathroom or everything. And all of these clearly cause him, he's 6, 7, 8 years younger than me now, make him rethink a lot of different aspects of life, as I already had, but watching this show kind of affirmed all of that we can do everything right and shit can still go wrong, but it doesn't mean that you don't try. And it doesn't mean you have to be scared. You don't have to be afraid to get older, that your skin, Arnold Schwarzenegger once famously talked about this, because you look at Arnold movies where he still looks insane well into the 1990s. You look at him even in Eraser where he's pushing 50, man, he is dialed in. But he talked about a time, I assume he was referring to in his 50s, where he started to see lines on his abs and not the good kind, meaning that he was starting to develop skin folds. And he freaked out. Even Arnold, 7-time Mr. Olympia, one of the biggest movie stars in the history of cinema, freaked out. It's normal. It's part of the process. You just have to kind of come to terms with it. You're not going to be able to do exactly what you want to do every day for the rest of your life, because eventually you're going to reach an age where it's no longer viable. I can't bench press 300 plus anymore, but I can still bench press a decent amount of weight. I can do a shit ton of reps with 50 and 60 and even 70 pound dumbbells. Can't use hundreds, because if I use the hundreds, if my form is off, I'm going to fuck up my left elbow and then I'll really be pissed off. But anyway, you understand what I'm saying. I'm about to turn 50, and my life, the second half of my life, has been so much better, so much more rewarding than the first half. And even well into my 30s, I've gotten so much more out of life from like late 30s until now, because I changed my mindset. I stopped being scared of everything and started engaging. And that's really what life is about. Mix it up. Interact. We're only here once, right? We don't know how much time, but we do know for certain the only things for sure in life, death, taxes, and the house percentage. That's it. Everything else, up for grabs. No way of knowing what's going to happen. We're just on a rock floating in space, or as Jim Carrey said, we're just clusters of tetrahedrons moving around through space. That's pretty much what we are. But just try to get the most out of every day. Try not to stress too much about aging. Because if you're at a young enough age, like me at age 8, freaking out about the fact that, my God, could you imagine being 50 or 60? Hell, could you imagine being 30? 30 was ancient. I remember in first grade, my mother was 35 years old. I thought she was an old maid at 35. My dad's hair started to go gray when he was in his late 30s. Yeah, my dad's really old. He's 38 years old. Bullshit. I do agree with the idea you're as young as you feel, you're as old as you feel. And if you take your health seriously, don't stress about the weight that you're using or your body fat percentage or the fact that your abs at the same body fat percentage don't look the same as they did when you were 20. Don't stress about that. Just stay focused, and it's okay to get older, because we all get older. I'm about to turn 50 in a number of hours, and I've gotten more out of life, even in this last year, than you can possibly imagine. And I'm just about the luckiest SOB you'll ever meet. So with that, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. That brings to a close episode 39 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I want to thank you all once again for joining me, for sharing some of your Thursday evening with you. If you're checking this out on the YouTube channel, please, if you haven't already, don't forget to click like and smash that subscriber bell. I'll be back real soon with episode 40. Take care.